All right. All right. So you're spelling it out for me.
That's just mine. My personal, but I always point everyone to
Okay.
Left Flank Vets.
Yeah. Okay. Lorax of the Left, and that's how you could find Lorax here on the Twitter. Is that right?
Yeah, on the Twitters.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and throw that up here.
My handwriting's awful, but Left Flank Vets is, I always point. That's where you want to find us.
Right. Cool. So again, you want to find Lorax Strimman here on the twitch.com, Left Flank Vets. You want to find him on the Twitter, on his own handle, Lorax of the Left. Awesome. And let's chat real quick. Like, how do I know you? I think I just, I know you because you're the Left Flank Vets. You were the, one of the bigger leftist accounts on the scene when I sort of started to dabble in the leftist, politics type streaming. So I was like, all right, these are people that I look up to. I still very much look up to y'all in your stream. Oh. I'm trying to convince myself to find more and more time to watch y'all. You always have great things to share. And I'm also very appreciative to have some of you on this show and on this channel. So Lorax, we've reached out to my friends in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. And in that same spirit, thank you for joining me. Thank you for being willing to chat about your journey and your life. I know you were on an episode of Kenzo Shibata's Meet the Left, but I had to miss that. Literally, my computer pretty much did the equivalent of an explosion that day, and I couldn't do shit. I was worthless. So I'm sorry I missed you that day, buddy. But it's good to be with you today, and thank you.
Yeah, it's all good. I was upset that your computer took a shit that day.
Oh my gosh,
because it works so much better with you like guiding everything.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
Well, because it's hard. Like I'm doing it right now. I'm like the streamer, the producer, and I'm like the talent or whatever. It's hard to sort of do both. It's best to be able to just not pay attention and sit back. So that's sort of like nice that Kenzo gets to be able to do that. But I definitely abandoned him that day, and I'm a terrible producer. I'm a bad person too.
It's all good.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and dig right in. I would love to dig into the interview. Actually, before we do that, this is, we have plenty of time. I would love to sort of give you the floor. We can sort of talk about whatever is on your mind. This sort of section, I call it, what's grinding your gears. I'm going to make a little graphic for that down the road. But, what's on your mind? Current events, topical, or just anything that's just rolling around up there.
Well, I mean, I'm in a cross between, whether I'm more communist or anarchist at this point. After the shooting the other day, just like, yeah, there's a lot going on and then there's some shit going on Twitter this morning, and it's just been, it's been a day.
What's challenging that? Can I assume you identify with communists and you're toying with anarchism, or is the opposite?
I think the theory that I've been reading, I like to, sometimes the product of change or the theory of change can be it varies on different levels. Like, right, I think anarchism and communism all have the similar end goal with stateless, cashless, wageless society. But you also have the way to get there, right? So do you do it through like a Trotskyist transformation program or a transitional program, or do you do it through, I don't know, like a commune system or just getting rid of the state immediately and then figuring it out from there? And that's where you don't know. I'm not going to like openly talk about what it would mean to be an anarchist revolution, but also I don't know where we're going in the United States, and it's hard to sit back and like think about this as like, how can we do electoral politics? Is that something that is even doable for the future of Black and brown communities in this country?
It doesn't appear to be the case. I mean, it's not doing it so far, and nothing's changing, right?
Yeah, it's kind of shitty. Reform, and it's like, the whole idea of like, we keep doing reform and eventually we get to abolition, but every time we do a reform, it seems like a majority of the country just kind of goes back to sleep. I think that's where my head is. It's tough to justify one or the other right now. Especially, I mean, it's just like there's something in the air right now. This summer is going to be a lot different than last summer in a lot of ways. Plus, the California fires coming up, climate change, hurricane season. Just looking forward to another fucking year of disaster. I don't mean to doomer on your stream. We're going to have fun here in a second. We're going to talk about our cool stuff, but this is what's weighing on my mind. It's just like on a bigger scale.
That.
Yeah.
I hear you. Hey, someone's mentioning they got your mic. Is that the Shure mic? The what is it called? I forget.
Shure, the MV77, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah.
That serves a lot of people pretty well there. It's the USB mic, but you can also plug in a fucking 3-pin XLR.
Yeah, you can do
right?
3-pin as well. Yeah, it's a really sweet mic.
Nice.
I got it because Marcus got one, and I was like, I want the same one. And yeah,
it's a good looking mic. Sounds good. So let's talk about it. Let's dig in, and we'll have more time to chat at the end, I think.
Yes.
So Lorax, we call this Where Are They Now? Feel free to talk about more about your current projects. You're on the Left Flank Vets. You can also mention anything professional or other leftist-related projects that you do. I know I've seen pictures of you doing direct mutual aid. Feel free to chat about whatever keeps you busy these days.
I mean, I'm just trying to stay involved in the community. I think one of my tenets of just my personal tenets is if you're going to, it's like just weird leadership theory that I learned through the Navy, and then after when I got out of school and got my degree, was you never ask someone to do something that you wouldn't do. So I guess as a streamer with a decent following, I'm not going to say it's big, but it's a decent one. I want to be out there in the community and organize and do the shit that I say that I tell other people to do. I've joined an organization, Socialist Alternative. I'm still weighing on that because it's still early in that, but leftist organizations are like, I always say it's like an AA meeting. If you don't like the one that you went to, go to another. Go find another one that fits your vibe, and that's where I'm just trying to figure out where I fit in that. But in the meantime, I'm doing mutual aid. There's this organization called Breakfast Block out here in San Diego that every 2 weeks they do a massive hot food and mutual aid drive. But also there's politics inserted into it too, because you can't just do mutual aid without inserting a political ideology as well, or else it just leads to a constant set of burnout.
Elaborate on that. What do you mean? Spell that out for me.
When I say insert politics into things like mutual aid, it means inserting politics. Talk about the capitalist structure of why we're doing it. Okay. Why this has to be done every weekend. Talk about the failures of the NGOs or the nonprofits that the nonprofit industrial complex brings to the United States. Like it's just a cop out. Like philanthropy is just a cop out for billionaires to pretend they care. And so when we talk about mutual aid and this set of burnout, if you don't insert politics, whether it be theory from anarchist theory or communist theory, then it really just becomes a constant cycle of giving, where eventually you end up running out of volunteers. You end up running, like, just burning yourself out because you're constantly needing to do this unless something changes, right? Like our end goal of mutual aid is to not have to do mutual aid is always part of society. Kropotkin wrote a really good book on mutual aid, but like we want to get to a point where mutual aid is just like giving your neighbor something they need to cook something, opposed to fucking needing to give mass society clothing and bedding and stuff, because everyone should have those basic needs. That's the end goal, right? Is to do it so you don't have to do it anymore. And I think that's a lot of times lost with the lack of inserting politics into it.
Lorax, for those who don't know what mutual aid is, do you mind spelling that out for them really quickly?
Mutual. So there is a difference. So this is actually a shirt from Breakfast Block. It says solidarity, not charity. Because solidarity is genuinely caring and building a connection in your community and building a connection with your fellow organizers, not just mobilizing for the next major thing that happens every fucking day here, right? So mutual aid is providing those basic needs outside of the infrastructure of a nonprofit or a government entity to our neighbors, like our houseless neighbors or our neighbors who need a door fixed, right? Anything like that could be, you could start an optometry block where you have volunteer optometrists come in and do eye exams for people who can't afford it. That's mutual aid. I mean, this is what the Black Panthers did, right? With their community breakfasts, their health centers. They served over 2,000 people with their community breakfast or health centers in 1 year. 2,000 people got free health care. And so that's where, we talk about mutual aid. It's outside of the structure of the current capitalist system.
That's fantastic. Lorax, let's move on then.
Okay.
No, we're doing fine. We're doing all right. And if there's ever anything you want to elaborate on or whatnot, or any questions you want to skip, that's all good. It's a chill chat. We're here to get to know you, spread the good word. So, talked a little bit about the current projects you're working on. You're doing the mutual aid. You work with the Left Flank Vets. How about that? Can you quickly mention for those who don't know what the Left Flank Vets are and what y'all do?
Yeah, Left Flank Vets. So I was originally part of Veterans for Bernie Sanders in 2016. I was the California deputy director. That's what kind of got me involved in politics. And then and then I was a political director for 2018 cycle. And we kind of it was like a group of us, and we kind of got burnt out doing it because the Bernie Sanders campaign didn't really recognize us. They ended up hiring a veteran who had no idea what they were doing for veteran outreach. And it kind of hurt knowing that we did so much work for free for Bernie and not getting really any acknowledgement. So we were just like, you know what, 2020 rolls around. We were doing the Vets for Bernie thing for a bit. And then early 2020, we're like, you know what, Bernie's not acknowledging us. He hired this other dude. And then the person who founded Vets for Bernie was like, here, take the social media. And I was like, I have an idea. I've had this idea for like years. It's like, we need to transition from idolizing a politician to being veterans who happen to be like on the left, like a socialist communist sense. And so, we have vets in our name, but I think it's important to point out that that's when we brought in Erica and Marcus and I had been part of Vets for Bernie, and then we brought in Dick. So we started the stream because, the Twitch streamers like the Army, Esports, and Navy were on there. So we were like, let's do some de-recruiting. Let's go get the kids, right, away from joining the military. But what's important to remember is like we are vets, but we also understand that a lot of the vet issues wouldn't be issues if capitalism and the military-industrial complex were brought down, right? Like in a way that all these things like homelessness. And when people talk about veteran homelessness, it's like all homelessness matters kind of thing. Yeah. Veteran homelessness should not be put on a higher platform than homelessness, right? This is what the ruling class loves to do. Is like, we need to put veterans first. Like, with a universal healthcare system that we have in the VA, if that was expanded to everyone, there could be a division for veterans for sure, because there's unique trauma that comes from war and the fighting the capitalist wars. So I think there's ways, but what we love to hear, what the ruling class loves to do, including the Democrats, it's like veterans, like, because it's an easy talking point for them, but they don't actually do anything for it. They don't actually care about veterans if they're not fighting the capitalist structure. And so that's what Left Flank does. We do a stream. We stream almost every day. I think we're actually live right now.
Okay.
I don't even know what we're doing, but
or someone else's live?
Yeah, someone else.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we're doing War is a Racket Wednesday. We do that every Wednesday now, where we bring on Steven Semler, who's been doing a lot of deep digging into like police and military spending and shit.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's the thing. One of the things about being a streamer is you're missing everyone else who's currently streaming. You can't win them all.
No, and also we do have a benefit of having 4 different people, right? So we have people 3 on the East Coast and then me on the West Coast, so we can change up our streams and have different ideals and push back on things. We have discussions on stream all the time about like various tactics, and we don't agree on everything, and that's okay.
That's fascinating. Y'all still have a great teamwork attitude. You really get to. It seems like you get along really well together. From the outside, you do a great job. Okay, we chatted a little bit about your projects, your mutual aid, your work on the Left Flank Vets. We love your show, of course. We're huge fans of the show, big friends of the channel here. And what I'd love to do is talk a little bit about, your leftward bound journey. And if I remember correctly, I was maybe we've chatted about this before, or I've heard you talk about it before. You were like raised a Marxist. Is that accurate?
Me, no.
Way
I
off.
I read Marx in high school though, and that's what. So I have an interesting background myself, and I don't want to go too much into detail and let y'all know, but like I was raised in a very impoverished neighborhood in Spokane, Washington, Eastern Washington, which is a shitty little racist, neo-Nazi town. But I happen to live in like the one major impoverished neighborhood, and like went to the poorest elementary school. And then at like 13, my parents got an inheritance from my grandfather, of course, because that's how the white family structure in America works. It's like you just wait for an inheritance to get money, right? And so like my parents got an inheritance, and we moved to like the upper South Hill of Spokane, which is like nicer, but also like the houses at the time were like 150,000 opposed to what it is now at like 600,000. So we moved up to this neighborhood. I changed schools, and I got into this like scene kid, goth kid thing, and I started reading. When everyone else was reading Harry Potter, I was reading All Quiet on the Western Front and like Catch 22. And then I started dabbling into theory, where one of my friends was like, "Hey, there's this book called Communist Manifesto," and it's always been a big no-no, not to read it. So like I, as a little anti-authoritarian kid, I just read Marx, and I remember coming home one day and I was like, "Hey, Mom, Dad, you ever read this guy Karl Marx? Like, it makes a lot of sense. Why is capitalism like this? Why are there homeless people? Things like that." And so my dad shut that down real quick. But because of that attitude that I had in high school, like this needs to change, I also like did a lot of drugs and drank a lot in high school. So I ended up joining the military because I had no direction at 17 years old. And so I joined the Navy to avoid combat, but little did I know I'd still be part of, the entire cog of the military industrial complex. But seeing it firsthand is, it was pretty bad. And then, poverty stricken. Yeah, I don't know.
So
just reading chat.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, let me dig a little bit more deeply here. I wonder if you can touch on, if anything sticks out to you, and feel free to skip if you like or pass. Any aspects of politics, especially leftist theory or thinking. You mentioned homelessness. Why is this a problem? Any other aspects that really stick out to you as something that helped to win over your heart and mind to the left?
I mean, really, a lot of it's experiences, right? When I got out, I got involved. I saw Bernie Sanders. So, like, when I got out of the Navy in 2012, I started drinking heavily and kind of got in a really bad place mentally because of whatever trauma I had during the military. I don't say that as like I don't know what the trauma is. I'm just not going to talk about it here. And like I got in a really bad place, and then I got sober for 2 years. And when I got sober, I started attending AA meetings for like 2 years, and then Bernie came around, and Bernie started his campaign, and he was like, "Yo, mental health mental health is not a criminal issue. It's a like healthcare issue." And I was like, that stuck for me, and so I got in the Bernie campaign. And I think like a lot of the left today, right now, like especially a young left, Bernie Sanders was a big part of that, right? And so I jumped into Vets for Bernie and just worked in the Democratic Party. And then working in the Democratic Party showed me how futile the fight within the party is. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't see an inside game strategy at all. I think Nevada's a one-off, but I also see that how the Democratic Party will absolutely pull funding and try to smash that as fast as they can.
You're talking about how the Nevada
DSA
Democrats
took over,
were swept by the DSA.
Yeah.
And they pretty much drained the coffers on the way out.
Yeah. And I just don't think they got their money back. I think like Bernie got them like $2 million. Ooh. And I think if that continues, for sure. Right. But I also don't know if that can be replicated anywhere else. I know people are talking about like, oh, we need to replicate it there. But like, we tried that in California. We got almost 60% of the California delegates were Bernie Sanders driven delegates in 2017. And so what happened then is that the high up, the executive board of the California Democratic Party pretty much smashed it, and then the union bosses were like pressuring their members to vote for a ridiculous piece of shit named Eric Bauman from LA, and then we couldn't get our candidate as in the board, and we didn't get any board members, and then 3 years later it's now run by a bunch of neolibs and the Gavin Newsom party. It's just shit. Like, we live in a liberal hellscape in California. Even though the state voted for Bernie, it still goes back. People just go right back to sleep.
Okay, so you've touched on something I think many people watching the channel will relate to, whether or not they're on the side already of you being convinced that working from within the Democratic Party is, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but perhaps a severe waste of fucking time and energy, and that can be a huge lesson of sort of like realizing, okay, you can't reform this. We need something like a revolution. We need drastic fucking change, because the Democrats aren't going to save us. In fact, I often point to Chicago as a place run quote unquote by Democrats. You can't really win, and you can't get you can't win an election if you're not a Democrat. So they're all Democrats technically, in a way, and our problems aren't going away. You know what I mean? They're not our savior party. We have to apparently be our own.
Yeah, and there's issues with that too. I mean, the third parties we watch, third parties dissipate and fall apart really quickly, and that's where building a revolutionary leftist party or like a united front, if you will, like a united left, where you have Socialist Alternative, PSL, which is the Party for Socialism and Liberation. You have the Greens. You have the Communist Party USA. You have USA Communist Party. You have the various different, the World Workers Party. And my idea is like if great utopian grand ideas, if they all got in a fucking room together and put out a 15-point platform and said we're all going to support this, it would be cool. But instead we wait every 4 years for a fucking presidential candidate who's going to like start this movement and do this. But like everything you do, the revolution starts in your backyard. And I think that's so important. You can tweet. Tweeting is free. Posting is free. But if you have time to like sit on Twitch or like watch a Twitch channel, you have time to go to a meeting, like a organizing meeting or something like that. Like we're organizing for a possibility for a Derek Chauvin not guilty or acquittal or slap on the wrist. We're organizing for that already. And we've got like 8 different activist groups in these organizing meetings here in San Diego. It's like that's what we needed to do, right? Is build this connection. But also movements aren't like the George Floyd protests last summer were not movements. They were sporadic uprisings they were spontaneous uprisings. They didn't really lead to a lot. And then we have, because they were anti, right? Like they were like anti the system, but there was no right? Like there was no end goal. There was defunding the police. But like even then that gets muddled down because like, what does defunding do, right? It shifts allocation resources to communities affected, but it also goes through the U.S. system that clearly has means tested black people and brown people and indigenous people into fucking oblivion. And when I talk about means testing, it's like you are putting barriers on fundings, right? If the funding isn't universal, then it's a failure. If the police are even 50% defunded or 25% defunded, that is still police state oppression. So if you're not out there saying we are going to abolish the police and that's what we want, that's the only communist position that we can take right now. And I think, I would love to see Democratic Party people out there saying we need to abolish the police, but that's just not going to happen because the party structure loves the police and they just blame everything on training.
You know what I think about that, Lorax? Well, thumbs down. No, that's not what I think about that. I'm sorry. That's what the Democrats think of that. The thumbs down. Okay, I'm gonna work. Oh,
I didn't really address the Democrat thing. But yeah, the Democrats, like as far as working with them, go for it. But also, we on the left need to realize, like, when you fail, because it's inevitable, we are here with open arms, right? Like I'd rather take a Democrat who's given up on the system, especially Black, brown, POC person who was working with the party and has now decided to say, fuck it. You know, I want, like, we need to build a structure that welcomes people who are severely disaffected by the capitalist system, more so than, you know, like someone like me, right? You know, this is where this whole discourse of, and it's not discourse, it's a discussion about like, how do we go about people like, you know, these large streamers who have a very vitriolic fan base that would absolutely probably swat a Black person if they found, you know, an address, right? Like, these are very vitriolic streamers, and it's important to recognize that. And I just want to like say that because I'm seeing this discourse on Twitter too of like, no, I'd rather welcome someone who's like disaffected, who thought the Democratic Party was some sort of thing, than someone who happened to be down a weird pipeline in high school that they decided that they wanted to wear a swastika and then say they're better without actually doing anything to show they're better, right?
Right. I think you're dropping lots of things there. I'd love to dig into any and all of them, but I'm going to go ahead and move on. We got some stuff to take care of here. Now that we've talked a bit about Lorax, your leftward bound journey, we've talked about some projects you're up to and the work that you do. I wonder, you know, if you had the chance to look back and reflect and to have a chance to distill those into, I don't know, some life tips, some life hacks. What might you share with some folks listening out there?
You know, take my biggest life hack is, you know, it's, if I'm not okay with myself, I'm not great to help other people. If I can't help myself, then I need to be able to, in order to help other people, I need to help myself first, right? Like, I need to make sure my mental health is okay. You know, take a couple days, but also like be okay being uncomfortable. Be okay telling that fellow cis white person that, hey, maybe you shouldn't say this shit, right? Like, be uncomfortable making people uncomfortable in a way that isn't like yelling at them, but also saying, hey, this is where you're wrong. And so this is where, just for life hacks, take a second, take a night, take an evening, take a weekend, and do something for yourself if you can, if you have the means to do it. And I don't want to sound like privileged at all, but like, if you have the means to take care of yourself and take a day off, take that time, right? Because burnout is real in the left, and because there's always something to fight for. Every fucking day there's something to fight for. So just know there's a diversity of tactics where if you can't make one protest, you can go to another, because there's going to be another. You know, getting arrested isn't necessarily a tactic, but if it happens, you know, you aren't doing anything wrong, and you'll be out in the morning because we have your back, right? It's like, but yeah, it's good to take your time. If you're feeling like shit, take some time for yourself, I think, is my biggest takeaway from that.
Great advice. Excellent advice. Take your time, folks. Take time for yourself. Take care of yourself. You know, if you can't help yourself, you can't help others, or at the very least, definitely limited, you know?
Yeah, it's limited. It's limited capacity, right? Like, if you're not there, how can you really show up for the community and build those connections, right? And I know building connections is difficult for people, but it's something that we work on, and we've got to welcome people from who might not be great at like social interaction and shit, or have extreme social anxiety. But how do we make it so they're comfortable as well? And you can't do that unless you're comfortable, right? If you're giving off a negative vibe to people, then, you know, it might turn some people away.
Great advice. We'll be keeping that in mind. You know, I often have my guests on, and I don't know if I doubt anyone's like speaking to me directly, like, Dan, you need to listen to this. But I'm always like, yes, I should do more. I should do more. I don't know. I've always been like that. It annoys the shit out of me.
I think staying quiet for certain things is difficult to do, and we shouldn't. But also there's choosing battles too, right? Yeah. There are battles to pick, and some are more important than others, in a sense of like, if your community is struggling, then you should be doing what you can to help your individual community, and then do the other stuff on the side, right? It's just prioritize, I guess.
All right, Lorax, I love that. Thank you again for sharing. Now we get to the fun part. It's the Leftist Inquisition. The Leftist Inquisition. Let's get this is the questionnaire. I hope I've sent you the most recent version. We're going to go ahead and begin with your favorite word. Do you have a favorite word or a favorite that you could name today?
Yeah, praxis is still my favorite word.
Praxis.
Praxis is a great word. I'm
For
sure
our
you've
baby
gotten that
leftists,
before.
what does that mean?
Praxis is just practice.
Yeah.
Like putting
Good
theory
praxis.
to practice.
Practice,
right?
yeah. Good
like
practices.
That's the best way to remember it, is just practice. Yeah, it's like, if whatever you do, if you want to be good at it and you've read about it, like even academia, like this is one of the problems with academia, right? Like they've read all these fucking books, but they've never done the praxis, right? Like they've never been in the community, built those connections. Praxis is organizing, is building connections. Mobilizing is just putting people in places to get the most effect. Organizing is building those connections, doing the praxis of theory that you're reading, right? When I say like anarchist theory doing praxis, that's not it. Like that's not like burning down a precinct. It's not. I mean, it can be praxis in a lot of ways, but like there's also building that connection with the community, which is also involved in that too. And so practical application of leftist ideas, right? That's all it is.
Oh, is that literally where that term comes from? I like that, actually. It's better than what I imagined. Really good shit. Praxis. Do you have a least favorite word, Lorax?
You know, I don't. There's words out there that I think of, and I'm like, I can't really think of any cringy words that I think about. I don't know. That's always a tough question for me. I just like, someone will say something, I'm like, ugh, I don't like that word. But yeah, I think no, I don't have any. Sorry, least favorite words. It's tough. Well, they're gonna skip that question.
Pass. I'm not mad. Lorax, do you have like a favorite drug or vice or guilty pleasure? You can name one or two or three, any of them or all.
I'm a smoker. I smoke cigarettes, and I think that might be my favorite guilty pleasure because it gets me away from the world for like a 10-minute break. It lowered. I know we can go through the theory of like lowering anxiety, but it does for temporary being, and then the anxiety comes back, and I smoke again, and that's how that shit works. And I'm well aware of the health issues, but I enjoy my nighttime where I'm sitting on my balcony having a beer and my cigarette and just like looking into Twitter. That's when my best takes come out, honestly. Yeah. Like, is at nighttime. Like when I post late night on Twitter, I'm like, it's always good shit. Yeah.
All right, folks. Make sure you set your Twitter alarm notifications for Lorax, and when they start going off at night, that's when the good shit's coming out. Oh, I'm excited. I'll be looking now. Top tier Lorax. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I posted about my liberal parents last night. Oh. Did well.
Shots fired or what? What happened there?
Yeah, kind of. So my parents, my entire family wouldn't talk to me about politics during the prime. They did one time, and I was like, went off about how Biden is shit, and then I went off on my brother because they were like, oh, Biden's going to be really good on race and immigration, and
I pulled it up. No gods, no masters, no podcasters, no streamers. Oh fuck, that means we got to quit our jobs, dude.
Well, that's where if you if you finish the tweet, it's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. I mean it. Yeah. Are these people showing up at union drives, at mutual aid events, telling you ways to get involved in your community? I would hope the Left Flank Vets community knows to keep us all honest with this.
Yeah, if you scroll down, it's a little thread. But
okay. You got Mo. Oh, you got a lot more.
There's always more.
There's always more.
There's always more. Because what'll happen is I'll tweet, and then like 5 minutes later, I need to add more.
Of course. I think they, if anything, they should give us an edit button that like is on a timer. Like, let me respell some words. All right, we have a pod, a stream, top tier shit posters, but we push hard for local organizing more than anything. Want to change the electorate? Do it in your backyard, or join an apparatus already doing it. And I like what you mentioned earlier. You mentioned, if there's an organization you don't like, try another one. And I wonder what I should try. Because
Oh, and then I took a
went
shot
to
at
it.
forced to vote or some shit like that. You don't
Oh,
have
okay.
to put that. Yeah, I don't want to piss anyone off here, but yeah, forced to vote wasn't organizing. Sorry. Sorry,
Yeah.
sweaty.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I don't see how they're building leftist unity, strength, or pride, and that's like if that's like my focus, it just seems like it's a big red fucking flag when people aren't even trying. So that's good shit. I need to focus more myself. I need to like figure out how I can get involved and do more mutual aid. It might take the form of doing it online, but I gotta do more. I gotta be better. Thank you for pushing me left, Lorax. Couple more questions. Got a lot more here for you. Do you have like a sound or a noise that you love?
I love like water flowing. I fucking love I like a stream, like an actual stream, or like a river. If we were to, if you ever watch Adult Swim late at night or used to or whenever, like they would do all these like watch our stream, and it's just like a river or a creek. I just fucking love that. I don't know. I grew up around like rivers and shit, so that's where like we'd go out to the river a lot, and so that sound is always just really calming for me, more than like the ocean. I don't like the ocean. Fuck the ocean. Spent too much time on that bitch. So like now I'm, I got my streams.
Check out our streams. I love moving water. It's the best. It's also like good on the eyes. Like it just sort of sucks you in like a fire, Visual ASMR. How about noises or sounds you hate or intensely dislike?
I hate screeching. Like just
Yeah.
I hate to say it, like kids screaming like at a really high pitch bugs the shit out of me. And then like the chalkboard shit, like whenever that happens, like you run a table across the ground or some shit and it just pitched. Those noises I don't like. It always makes me cringe.
Yeah. Lorax, next question is about reincarnation. If you could come back as a plant or a different animal, what would it be?
I've thought about this a lot, and I think a penguin would be cool. I would want to be penguin because like, people don't fuck with penguins. They're just like on their own. They're doing cool shit. They just like swim. They're always wearing tuxedos. Like, I think I want to be a fucking penguin because like they're also just such wholesome creatures. If you read about them, like, they one pebble and give the pebble to the other penguin, and like that's their mate for life. And the men do all like the housework of like sitting on the eggs, while the females like fish and shit. And it's like they're such wholesome creatures. I think they're so cute too. I mean, like something about flightless birds, like but penguins, not chickens or shit or turkeys.
I too have never seen that movie about the penguins and their terrible life, and I think that seems very nice to be a penguin.
I mean, and that's like the shittiest life. I don't know why people think like just living your life is shitty. Just like doing your thing.
Okay.
And they have a community too. Like penguins are not individual creatures. They do things for their pride or their herd or whatever it's called. And so like, I love penguins. And I think, whether it's a capitalist, let's bring it into the current system, right? Capitalist. What they do is they get to a point where they exploit enough labor where they don't do shit and they just make money. What do we want on the left? What do we want on socialism? We want to not have to do shit. We don't want to have our labor exploited. We want our basic needs fit. We want to work maybe like 2 to 3 hours a day and then do whatever we want for the rest of the day and work on the shit that we want to do. And like, that's where socialism truly is freedom. Like that individual communism is freedom. And so like penguins are living that fucking life. So that's not a shitty life. They're just doing whatever the fuck they want and people leave them alone. And it's like in a way but if their neighbor asks for help, you fucking help them, Your friend asks for help, you help them. It's a Letterkenny quote, but it's something that I always appreciate.
You'd be a penguin. You're the first person to pick a bird that doesn't fly.
Yeah, I got triggered because someone was like, penguins have a shitty life. Get out of here, grammar socialist. All right, get the fuck out of here.
Fuck out of here, you're banned.
Yeah, because you don't need to fly for penguin. You have your habitat. And
Yeah,
you know what? The
yeah.
only reason your habitat's going away is because fucking humans. So
Yeah.
I would be a penguin.
Oh man. All right, good points there. All right, the next question has to do about heaven and God. If someday you find out they actually exist at the end of your life, what would you like to hear them say to you as you approach your version, whatever version of that you hold in your head, of the pearly gates?
I'm gonna be real cliche with this question, or with this
Yeah.
answer, but like I would hope that if there were a higher power that I'd meet at the pearly gates, would say, "Hey, you've done everything you can in your life to. When you made mistakes, you atoned for them, and you worked very hard to change the system that caused those mistakes or created those mistakes, and you've done all you can to pull people left in a way that creates a sense of empathy and sympathy for others." And that's where I think that's every single religion, every single no matter what it is, it's all do unto others that you would do unto yourself, or whatever the quote is, the golden rule, right?
Right.
I think they all say that. And I think that's what I hope, that, I wouldn't do anything to others that I wouldn't do to myself.
I'll chime in, and I'll actually push back on that. There's at least a couple of them that say, "Don't do unto others that you wouldn't have done unto yourself," which honestly may be more thoughtful. But yes, obviously your point is very well taken and really important. And we've heard it before, but fuck, dude, this is very much what this show is about. Is repeating important lessons and fucking driving the point home. If I'm gonna be streaming for 8 hours a day, I'm gonna repeat myself from time to time. Okay. Beautiful.
Thanks for the correction, by the way.
I didn't mean to correct you, and I'm sorry that I came off like that. That's my bad.
That's the correct quote, and I'm just not. I haven't been part of any like religious. I mean, probably since AA was highly religious, but even then, I ran a Buddhist program for myself. But like back then, but like as a kid, I went to like Bible study and shit. Just honestly, I went to. I was one of those kids in high school who went to like the Bible groups, like the youth groups, just to like meet girls. But that was me in high school.
I did the same, but I didn't realize.
I think a lot. I mean, let's admit it. Like we grew up in a society where it's like, yeah, that's what men it's fucking awful. But yeah, I definitely went to youth groups and didn't care about anything they were teaching. I just like went for the food and the girls and like the fun, like prior, like the games we would play for like an hour before we sat down. And then I'd be like, ugh, I wish I wasn't here.
Guys just want one thing, and it's ridiculous, and it's not eternal salvation.
I just want communism. That's it. It's actually a problem.
Fair.
It's like what I'm very focused on. It's probably why I'm just like I cannot hold down a relationship, because I'm just like I don't have time for anything but building communism.
Well, make sure you do a good thing for yourself, Lorax. Make some space for an important person in your life. How about a leftist? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh no, that was it. I said maybe.
Okay. Maybe. I got my fingers crossed for you if that's what you want for yourself.
I'll meet my commie girlfriend one day. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you dead set on a girlfriend being a commie or a lefty, or are you open minded to that?
It's a good question. It's something that this is a really good question, because at this point, yeah, I think I'm pretty set. I think I'm pretty stuck on certain criteria, because I have dated the centrists and I've dated professors, fucking like professors at UC schools, right? Like UC San Diego, like a sociology professor who's read all the fucking books, but also extremely liberal, like white feminist bullshit. And I was like, well, I can't do this because you're missing a lot of points. But because of the academia side, it's like I'm smarter than you kind of thing. It's very fucking. This is why people hate liberals, really, like that example. And so, like, yeah, I think because I am so political, and because I think politics all the time, like one beer down at the bar, I'm just like, hey, did you know about blah 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 worker exploitation? And it's not a great thing, but it's something that is part of my life. And I think in order to have a healthy relationship, be very accepting or understanding of your partner's shit that they got going on. Yeah, it's one thing that It's like someone's like, oh yeah, you shouldn't put so much commie shit in your Bumble profile. I was like, no, I should, because guess what? First date, I'm going to be going off about commie shit, you know?
Go off, buddy. Go off. Right? Well, I mean, otherwise you're just holding yourself back and you're going to say it down the road, and then what? And then what's going to happen? You might as well say it right off the bat.
Yeah, it leads to fights for sure. When it's political
man.
stuff, I'm just like, yeah.
I haven't dated in a long time like that. I have no clue. My hat is off to you.
Oh yeah,
Lorax,
being a 32-year-old communist trying a single world in San Diego, in a place like San Diego, it's a thing. It's a thing for sure.
So it's not exactly a commie hotbed over there in San Diego.
No,
that's a shame. Not yet. Not yet. Hey, how about a leftist hero? Define that any way you like. A leftist hero, dead or alive, that you'd like to meet.
Man, that's that's tough, because there's a lot. There's a lot. I would love to meet like Malcolm X or Fred Hampton, or I would actually. I know Angela Davis is still active. I'd love to meet her. But like Che Guevara or Fidel Castro would be cool. I think, yeah, Nelson Mandela. There's so many people that pop in my head that are like socialists. And I think I would love to just have like a conference with all of them.
So for this next question, then, you can keep one or the entire conference of them in mind. Let's say you had the chance to meet them now and sort of chat with them, tell them what you're up to, and maybe more about your life if you felt like you left anything out. What do you think that they'd say to you right now? What do you think they'd think about you?
I would hope. I mean, I would just want to meet them because I want to be a sponge, and I would ask questions. I wouldn't. Awesome. I wouldn't worry so much about like what they think about what I'm doing right now. It's how I can move forward with who I am, and I think that's where I am one of those people. It's like it's always moving forward, right? It's always moving forward, constantly. Maybe take a step back to look forward, right? And if that makes sense. It's taking a step back, looking at yourself and saying, okay, I'm going to continue moving forward, but I need to change this about me. And I think if I were to meet any of them, I would ask like, this is what I'm doing, but how can I be better? Right? Or who should I read? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. What book? Right?
Yeah. What's the best praxis? Right. And this is where like, I have these. I would also ask, like, this is my dilemma between these different theories, and and see what they say.
That's beautiful. All right, so Lorax, it's beautiful because you're still here with me. We still have time. You could still set your goals. Maybe you can imagine having those conversations with them, or maybe you get to have those real life conversations with those that you look up to, and continue to have the conversations with yourself and push yourself forward. Let's imagine you got some time, and at the end of your life, what would you like for them to be able to say about you and what you've done?
Man, that dude did a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I think, as I said, I did not judge myself based on followers, but like, I tend to look at myself as like, what have I done for the community, or what am I doing for communities disaffected by capitalism in a whole? And so I would hope one day, I mean, I want to write a lot later. Love to sit down and write some of my thoughts out that I like put in my journal. But like, I also think sometimes the things that I think in my head are good and should be shared, right? And so that's where I can do the stream, but I also want to write. And I want to write about that like 15-point platform for the left that could be useful in today's contemporary anti-capitalist fight, right? And in no way I'm an academic. I can write a APA paper, but that's about as far as I go, right? I don't know how the first thing about writing a book or grammar or anything like that. Like, I hate grammar shit, but it's something that like I think if anyone were to say, hey, that dude Lorax, he did a lot, he's building coalitions in the communities because that's what needs to happen to save the most amount of people. Or to like help the most amount, not save. Save is a gross word. That's a word I don't really like. Save. Oh, by the way. There we go. Back to that
We
question.
circled back. Yeah, perfect. And you've pissed off Grammar Socialist, Grammar_Socialist in the chat. So way to go. Dividing the left, and that was the exact opposite goal of what we're doing here today. So very upset with you, Lorax. No, really wonderful stuff there. And I really appreciate you sharing. This does come to the conclusion of my portion of the Leftist Inquisition. We have just a couple minutes left for you to take any questions from the chat that you feel like answering. Ignore everything else. And if you have questions for me, this is your time to turn it around. I don't want it to be entirely one-sided. I feel guilty about that, So yeah.
I mean, of course. I mean, I always have questions, right? Like I want to know what is your goal? I mean, I know you're doing some producing stuff. Like, what is your goal with what you're doing? And yeah, I'm curious.
Number one, it's a journey, and I'm like trying to figure things out. You know what I mean? That's the main goal. I don't know exactly what I'm doing and what I'm doing that's good and perfect and that I should keep doing, and what things I need to change. But my goals are very reflective of what I've learned from a mentor of mine who learned it from his mentor. Kenzo Shibata is my mentor. Karen Lewis, the CEO and president of the Chicago Teachers Union, when Rahm Emanuel closed 50 schools in one fell swoop. We striked, and I was a Chicago teacher at that time. That's when I became aware of Kenzo, but we didn't really know each other until recently. Kenzo would, he and I would go on to produce and make Meet the Left. We've been doing that for about 28 weeks or so. Except, of course, the week I had to take off where you were on. And Kenzo would teach me 3 principles, which is, when you're organizing, when you're doing things, ask yourself, is this building leftist unity, strength, and or power? And I'd like to think that this show attempts to move towards those goals. I'm hoping to come up with more ideas to do the same. And I'm wondering, like, what do I do? Do I like just throw myself 100% into streaming? Maybe this is what I have to give to the world, to leftist, our leftist community, because I do feel like I have a lot to lend, and I've learned a lot, and I have a lot more to learn, and I feel like I have I'm like in a good place to learn these things. So maybe I do that, or do I want to split my time and dig into the DSA? I went to their general chapter meeting the other week, and it was honestly like I felt like I was tearing my eyeballs out. I don't know if that's for me. Maybe it was just too big of a meeting. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm a baby leftist, I'm just starting to ask myself, important questions about. It's only been a year since I've like convinced myself that capitalism, you can't reform it. You can't like put Band-Aids on it. It's been less than a year that I convinced myself that you can't reform the police. You need to abolish the police. I'm like 36, but I'm just figuring these things out. So one of my goals as well is to learn my place by like trying to take a backseat, by allowing people to speak to me and putting myself in positions where I can listen. That's why I made that's why I helped make Meet the Left with Kenzo Shibata. That's why I do this show. I want my channel to be less about one cis straight white guy talking, and I wanted to open it up to more and more and more people. And that's going to be a process in itself. I'm already noticing. I just got a plethora of straight white dudes on my channel, and I'm like, this is fine, but let's move on from this. Let's move forward. So I got a lot to learn, a lot of room to grow, but it's fun.
One of those things,
I love it. I love streaming,
and I love hearing that. And like one of those things is with like platforming and stuff. We have a group coming on May 8th, and I'm really excited to have come on. That they don't have a ton of followers, but they're a revolutionary Marxist group out of San Diego State, and they're called Young Voices of Liberation, YVL.org on Instagram. It was like, hey, I saw them at the protest for Dante Wright the other night, and I was like, They spoke, and it was a young college-aged black-led Marxist organization. Like their first reading was Asada Shakur, and I was like, I think you should be platformed, and I think you should be like given a voice to talk about what you're doing, and how you're getting your peers in college, your young people into organizing. It doesn't have to necessarily be funneled into like a party, but like how, what does your organizing look like, and what are you reading, and how are you applying that practice, and those kind of things, and asking that. And I think what you're saying about learning, and it's like constantly learning. It's like I tend to default to learning from, actions. I think a lot of those things, it's like sometimes learning the hard way, and just like being in the communities, and I knocked a shit ton of doors. That helped me out a lot too. I knocked like 1,500 doors in 2020 and like 1,000 in 2016 for Bernie. Oh. And so like I talked to a lot of fucking people, and so hearing their stories and then seeing how like we go about our like Marxist organizing, I was like, yeah, I don't see a lot of that connection with working people, right? And so that's where when we talk about movements, I think the only movement we've seen in our lifetime is probably the Bernie Sanders, but again, that was about it. I don't think we've really seen a movement yet in this country, and I think I'm excited to actually see it. Maybe Bernie was the movement, but all it did was like once he left, everyone got split up. So
very disappointing what happened in many different ways there.
Yeah, and if you are looking for like reading list stuff, I would say Gomer, Sal, or Lady Overstegen here.
Yes.
I know Comrade Kenny does a lot of stuff on his channel too, but like readings, reading theory, reading the various theories, not siloing into one or two, but like reading all, right? Someone was posting Colleen, I think Colleen E. the Meanie on Twitter. She's from Chicago, I think. She was like, yeah, read some black theory, Marxist theory. Not just stick with like the old white guys all the time, right? Read the Asadas, read the fucking Angela Davises, read them,
for sure. Yeah. And indigenous. I mean, it's not like white people invented communism, stateless, moneyless societies.
Yeah, exactly. Indigenous people are the Red Revolution. I think the Red Network is the website that I go to, and I read a lot of like indigenous Marxist theory, and it's like really solid stuff. Really solid stuff.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us. I got just a couple minutes before my next interview. Lorax, like I mentioned, my goals are building leftist unity, strength, and pride in whatever way I can, figure out how to do that. And in that spirit, we've invited you in the same spirit. Thank you for sharing with us. I'm hoping we could schedule you in again so that now we've knocked out the sort of intro. Now we can actually start to dig into more important things, to sort of pet projects, anything topical that pops up that along the way you want to chat with me about in my audience. Feel free to sort of like invite yourself, and we'll get that scheduled up. Okay. Really enjoyed chatting with you today, Lorax. You're a leftist personal hero of mine. I really look up to each and every one of you over there at the Left Flank Vets. And again, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much, buddy.
For sure. Take care, Dan. Thanks for having me.
All right. Peace now. We'll see you next time. Love your face.
Later.
Okay. Did I break it? It's okay. Don't worry. Hey, YouTube. You're watching a clip from my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/iDanSimpson, where you can follow for free and subscribe for only $5 a month. Thanks for watching.